Hey, what's going on everyone? Bass here, and in today's video, I will be breaking down the Green Bay Packers salary cap implications. Now, I'm going to do two separate videos. This video is basically going to be going over why they are in the situation that they are in, looking over the contracts, void years added, all that sort. And then I'm also going to be making another video like I did last year, going in and fixing the Green Bay Packers salary cap myself and finding out a way to do that, showing the extensions, the cuts, the restructures. There's just a lot to go over, and that's why I wanted to make two separate videos. This one kind of just breaking everything down for you guys, showing you, like I said, the contracts, the cap hits for certain players, whether or not, they might get a restructure or might get a cut or an extension or nothing. But basically in this video, I'm just going to be showing you that. And like I said, in the next one, then we'll be acting on it, trying to get the Packers under the cap. And if you want more Packers news, analysis, and updates this offseason, make sure to go click that subscribe button below. I will be covering everything Packers from the draft, free agency, and of course the salary cap as well. So if we look at the salary caps around the league, and if we scroll all the way down here to the bottom, right before the very bottom is the Green Bay Packers. The Saints are just atrocious. I mean, not that the Packers don't have a horrible cap situation, but the Saints are even worse. But the Packers, as you see with cap space, negative $50,790,970, and then effective cap space, $53,946,135. Now, effective cap space is pretty much what your cap would be if you were to have 51 players on the roster. And the Packers are actually doing really well in the dead money department, only $732,000, difference, from someone like the team like the Saints with over $12 million in dead money. But the majority here is just the active cap spending, which is making them so far in the red. And the Packers have to clear this amount by the new league year, which is March 16th. So they need to be in the green rather than negative $50 million. So they need to clear pretty much $50 million in cap space by that date. All right, so now looking at the contracts on the team. Obviously, the majority that everyone wants to look at and figure out what's going to happen is Aaron Rodgers. And if we see here, he's playing at 2022 with a cap hit of $46 million, 46.6 to be exact. That's going to be 22.2% of the entire Packers salary cap. So that is something that is 100% going to change. There is no possible way that Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing at a $46 million cap hit for the 2022 season. There's just no way the Packers would be able to make that work. Now, whether that involves a trade, a restructure, or an extension, as you see, a max restructure here would save about $13 million. And if we're going trade pre-June 1st, which is kind of what's going to happen if he is traded, because you need to clear that cap by March 16th, you're looking at a cap savings of $19 million, which you'd still be paying him $26 million cap hit to not be on the team if they were to trade him pre-June 1st. So my bet is on either an extension or a restructure, adding void years into the future, pushing some of that cap out. The second highest played player here is Zadaria Smith, who we saw return in the game against San Fran, but was injured pretty much the entire year, played about a half week one against the New Orleans Saints. But his cap number is also very, very high, and in my eyes, 100% will not remain. $27.6 million here. I think Zadaria Smith is a cap casualty. I think he is a player that is likely to be cut. And, a year ago, I wouldn't be saying, hey, I think we're going to keep Preston Smith over Zadaria Smith, but it kind of came down to that. Preston Smith took a pay cut. I don't believe he'll be sitting at the 19 as well, but Za'Darius Smith, you save $15.2 million cutting him. I just think it's the right way to go. Now, if you were able to find a trade partner before March 16th, I just don't think it's too likely under the amount of money he's being paid. I just don't see a team really trading for that cap hit unless the Packers were to take on some of that money. But I think Za'Darius Smith is a definite cap casualty and probably will not be on the Packers next year. Next up, we have David Bochter, who is the third highest paid player on the Packers, who is a cap number of $22.2 million. And we basically didn't see him at all last year. A couple drives against Detroit. Thought he was ready to go in the playoff game. Wasn't active. So really just a shame to not see David Bochter pretty much at all in the 2021-2022 season. Hopefully he can really turn it around going into next year. We will need him with Elgton Jenkins being out for the majority of the start of next year. And with him, I'm pretty certain it's going to be a max restructure. The Packers have to push out money some way. That would save $8.1 million. So I see that happening. David Bochter being only 31. Now, albeit he is coming off a ACL injury, which we haven't really seen much afterwards, but I think this is kind of like a sure thing. You have to clear that money, and there's really no other option. And then, as I was mentioning with Zadaria Smith, we do have Preston Smith here at a 19.7 cap number. That also I don't think will remain, but I do think Preston Smith will remain on the team. 30 years old. If you were to cut him, though, pre-June 1st, you do save $12 million. So there is a chance that both of these guys might not be on the Packers next year. I mean, that would leave just Rashaan Gary pretty much in the edge rush room with Tipa Galeai, John Garvin, but you certainly need to keep one of these guys around, in my opinion. Now, you can't restructure Preston Smith because he's going to be on the last year of his deal unless they were to pretty much, I guess, extend him, adding void years onto the contract. But for example, if you were to extend or renegotiate, you could save right around $8 million. I think they will do that. I think they will add maybe 1 or 2 years onto his deal and then a multiple void years afterwards to push that cap out even further. As for Kenny Clark, 27 years old, had a really nice 2021 season, in my opinion. Restructuring him would save $9.5 million, pushing out his money even further, which if you do that, obviously you're going to have repercussions trying to get rid of the player later in their contract because you're already pushing out all that bonus and pretty much saying, hey, I'll pay it later. Not right now, but I'll pay it later. Now, I don't think that's a worry with Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark has been a amazing defensive lineman for the Packers. Being only 27 years old, I think it's definitely a thing that Packers are going to do here is just push that money out and pretty much save around $10 million off their cap for next year. And Kenny Clark is only signed through 2024, so even if you were to push a lot of that bonus out, his end of his contract, he'll be around 30 years old. As for Adrian Amos, he has an $11.9 million cap hit. He is on the last year of his deal, but has, I think, 3 or 4 void years added to his contract. If we look here, yeah. So he is on the last year of his deal in 2022, making that 11.9. So he has 3 void years added, meaning next year, if they were to move on from him, they'll still be paying him $3.2 million against the cap. If they do want to keep him, they could either extend him, restructure him. Restructure would save about $4.7 million, but then that would just push more of his bonus into these years, pretty much making it harder to move on from him and him being 28 years old. But I think he should be sticking around for a couple of years to come. So restructuring is a probably pretty good bet there. And it's pretty much the same case with Billy Turner. Last year of his deal, but they added 3 void years last year to push money out. Now, this one's tricky because to save $3.5 million on a restructure, you'd have to push more bonus out and making it harder to move on, just like I said with Adrian Amos. Now, Billy Turner's already 31 years old. I think the Packers might want a future of Elton Jenkins at right tackle. Obviously, this ACL injury complicates things. Royce Newman could be a future at right tackle. So I don't necessarily think the Packers would want to push more money out and make it harder to move on from Billy Turner here. So he might just be straight up nothing. They don't touch his deal. His cap number is 9.1, or if they do, they'll just push out a little bit and it won't be a full restructure in my opinion. Another very interesting one here is Aaron Jones. He signed that very back-loaded contract if we look at it here. I mean, in 2021, only a 4.4 cap hit number with 2.4%. And in 2022, this upcoming year, only an 8.9 cap number or cap hit with 4.3%. But then his backloaded contract comes into play, and in 2023, he's all the way up to a $19 million cap hit, which is not ideal for a running back, especially when you have a player like A.J. Dillon on the roster. So I think they honestly don't touch him at all, because if they were to restructure, they can save just under $3 million with a max restructure. But honestly, with Aaron Jones, I kind of think they move on from him after this season. They structured his deal that way, and in 2023, with cutting him or trading him, they'll save $12.7 million and only endure $6.5 million in dead money. So I think that's the route they go, and they don't touch his contract at all. Next up is Rashaan Gary, who's at a $5 million cap hit this year. I don't think they touch his deal at all. If anything, they would extend him next year. What a great year for Rashaan Gary. I really, really blew up. Love him at edge, and I think he will be on the Packers for years and years to come. And then Jair Alexander we have, who's on his 5th-year rookie option. He will most likely get an extension here to lower that cap number for this year, because that's the 5th-year option for cornerbacks, $13.2 million. They're probably going to extend him, give him a 4 or 5 year deal, and really backload it, allowing them to save a lot more money this year and get under the cap. So that's my guess is what they're going to do there. Dean Lowry, another interesting one here, because he has an $8 million cap hit, which I think is way overboard for Dean Lowry. Now, don't get me wrong. Dean Lowry, I think, had a good year. He was above average, kind of a liability in the run game. But it's kind of like, do you restructure him and save $3.3 million, or do you cut him? The problem I have with the cut, you'd still save $4 million and get $4 million in dead money. But the problem with the cut is the Packers are already so thin on the defensive line. After cutting Kingsley Keke with a potential coach fallout, they really down to Kenny Clark and TJ Slayton, because I really doubt Tyler Lancaster returns. But it's kind of a must to have Dean Lowry on this team, so you might just have to restructure him. I mean, he's 28 years old, but maybe push a little bit of money out to kind of lower that 2022 cap number. But I think that's kind of the way they go here, because as you see, 2022, last year of his deal, but also 3 void years. So you could push a little bit more money into these void years and pretty much pay later. I think that's the route they may go. I think the Packers, regardless, have to draft a defensive lineman early. And then going over the last few here with importance, Mason Crosby, there's potential Mason Crosby could retire, but if he doesn't, I think the Packers are likely to move on from him, saving $2.4 million about, and then maybe going with someone like J.J. Molson or drafting a kicker in the 6th or 7th round. A very, very shaky year for Mason Crosby. And I love Silver Fox. He's such a great person, such a great player for this Packers organization. But with this last year, how it went, the Packers might look elsewhere. And at a 4.7 cap number, they could definitely have a kicker on the team for a lot cheaper in a situation that, they're $50 million over the cap. And then Randall Cobb, I think he's pretty surefire a cut option, saving $6.7 million. Now, there's a chance that Aaron Rodgers decides to stay with the Packers, and one of those contingencies like it was last year, hey, keep my buddy on the team. So there's still a chance they could, restructure Randall Cobb a little bit, saving $3.3 million with a max restructure. But then again, it's just pushing money out further and further for an already 32-year-old wide receiver. Mercedes Lewis said he is returning. 38 years old, Mercedes Lewis still kicking it. Love the guy, love Big Dog. So not going to be a cut here. It seems pretty surefire that he's going to return to the Packers, at least by his Twitter and his tweets. They could potentially restructure, push out some money into future years, maybe negotiate, add some void years onto his deal. That could be an option. Kevin King here, although he's on here, he's a free agent. He's an impending free agent. We're paying him $3 million because we added those void years. As you see, he's not even on the team in 2022. He has a cap number of $3 million. Now, an interesting thing is if the Packers were to re-sign Kevin King, they could technically then take that money and push it out further, and his cap hit would be lower, right around $1.2 million for this year if he were on the team than if he weren't. So that's actually not a bad idea. I mean, you get the player, and I know a lot of people hate Kevin King, but I think he can be used in specific scenarios on this defense, under this Joe Barry defense. But if you were to say, okay, you cannot have Kevin King for $3 million, or you can have him for $1.2 million cap hit, I mean, you might take that. And then finally, for the next most important, Devandre Campbell, again, he's a free agent, but has the void years just like Kevin King. So as you see, 4 void years. His cap number is $808,000 for next year for not being on the team. I hope the Packers can retain him surely. Same with Chandon Sullivan, void years. I don't think the Packers will retain him, though. They drafted Shamar Jean-Charles, but his cap hit $970,000 on a void year, meaning he will not be on the team, and we will be paying him regardless. And then, of course, on the right side here, we have all the Packers free agents. I made a full breakdown on all the Packers free agents. Click the video link right above to go watch that if you haven't already. But Devontae Adams going to be hard to keep around. Now, if they were to do a franchise tag, $19 million, which isn't a bad idea considering there's reports coming out saying he wants $30 million. So Rasul Douglas pretty much said, hey, pay me a little bit more than last year. So likely he does return. MVS, there's no way him and Adams come back, even though Aaron Rodgers is saying, wherever I go, or if I stay, I want MVS and Adams by my side. I just don't really think it's going to be possible. And just to quickly run over a couple more, Lucas Patrick, great veteran, great depth lineman, can pretty much play anywhere on the line. I think a team will throw some money at him just because of that. Same with Dennis Kelly. Alan Lazard's the only restricted free agent on the team. He will likely get a second-round tender totaling right under $4 million. But other than that, we have a couple exclusive rights free agents like Josh Nyman, who will receive that tender. Dominic Daphne, Malik Taylor, possibly Henry Black. Didn't like what I saw last year, but they might just do that. But yeah, that about does it for the free agents and overall the breakdown of this salary cap on this team. I thought last year was bad. When we went into the last year's offseason, I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this, but Russ Ball, the wizard that he is, made it happen. Didn't end out how we wanted it to. We thought we were going all in. The Packers did go all in and just, didn't end how we wanted it to. But now we have a taller mountain to climb, a higher task, and that is in the form of negative $50 million in cap space to clear. But like I said, I will be releasing a video shortly after this one in the week, most likely, basically going over this, but doing all those moves and trying to get us in positive money where we can then maybe, tender Davante Adams, sign some other players. And I'll be going over contracts and extensions for Jair Alexander and a potential contract for Davante Adams and all the restructures and all that. So definitely keep an eye on my channel and make sure to look out there. But I want to hear your thoughts and comments down below on the salary cap. Give me your opinion and on some of these players, what they should do. But on that note, I'll catch you on the next one. As always, go Pack Go.